Kristan Bromley is three-time European champion, two-time World Cup overall champion and world champion of skeleton bobsleigh.
Kristan's been very, very fast in training. His brother Richard beside him.
Just to watch him coming down the slopes really does sort of take your breath away.
He's been speed orientated, you know what I mean, for many a year.
I mean, even when he was in the infant school, we still have the picture he drew, and he was actually on a sledge going down.
Yes, it must have been in his mind somewhere.
Kristan was a student in the School of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. After he graduated, he went back to British Aerospace.
Kristan was working at British Aerospace on the Eurofighter project with composites.
British Aerospace was approached by the Olympic team about sponsoring them and giving them some technical help with the skeleton bobs.
His hand went up to become part of the project.
So it was arranged that he would come back to Nottingham and registered as a PhD student. He and I sat down at a table with a single sheet of paper, looked at one another and said, what do we know about skeleton bobs? Answer, nothing. So the next question was, what would we like to know about skeleton bobs? A lot of his research was about friction between the runners and the ice.
It's been a lot of hard work, and to see the sledge being built, and we are now going out this week in Austria, it's extremely fulfilling to be able to see a product that you've seen from the concept up to the design and manufacture stage actually going out into the real world.
He had to go out to actual tracks and get the data himself.
But the Army predominantly ran the British Bobskeleton team, and they didn't want to let a young university graduate come in and tell them, you know, what was going to happen.
The team looked at him and sort of said, well, why don't you do it?
Well, that forced Kristan to get on the sled and prove his own theories. 4 years later, he was number one and they were out the team. The first time I went down the sled, I didn't care about it. It was just trying to stay alive. So how he went down and assimilated the information, what adjustments he could make, you know, from that initial ride was amazing.
Track record, 1:09.22.
I think it took 2 to 3 years to actually get the sleds to a point where they were rolled out to the team, and I believe there's many stories involving Kristan working through the night, taking some well-deserved sleep in the welding pits at British Aerospace.
The research and the work that goes into developing the world's best piece of sport equipment is huge.
I think it took a little while for the actual team to get to grips with the equipment, but Kristan especially was starting to fly on these sleds, and the rest of the world started to take note.
He has all the skills that you would expect from an elite athlete. He's driven, he's capable of really pushing himself. He looks for that extra edge.
He's very good at paying attention to detail, and again in a sport like ours where it comes down to 100th of a second, that really counts.
In 2008 he won the Triple Crown. He won everything, first time in the history of the sport. You know, never mind for anybody else in an ice sport nation, but for a Brit, if you like, to win all three, World Championship, European and World Cup, you know, phenomenal.
This was the championship trophy that he won in 2008. Kristan's pretty much expanded our sport, and he's been the lead and helped it develop to where it is today.
He took the decision to set up ice sport technologies with his brother Richard.
Now the equipment's wanted, and we currently sell to more than 20 nations worldwide.
He's renowned in the world, I think, now as Dr. Ice, and it all began all those years back when we sat down with that single sheet of paper and asked ourselves, what makes a skeleton bob go fast?
Well done, Daddy!
Kristan Bromley.
I think that video was the best kept secret in our house. Everybody seems to be in it. I didn't even know my parents were coming tonight, so it's an absolute privilege to be here. It is an absolute privilege to be recognised for the last 16 years, and I say we because it's been a real team effort from a technical point of view and from an athlete point of view. You know, people who are dear to my heart are here: my parents, my fiancée, unfortunately my brother isn't, and some of my colleagues. But everybody's been part of that journey. And 3 Olympic Games have taught me many things. That people behave differently under pressure, that when there's glory on the horizon, people do change. And I think those Olympics have showed me that that really the moments that I've been proud of in my career have been those times when I've been really low, because there's been some fantastically high times winning the World Championships, multiple crowns, etc., etc. The times when we're low and the times that we pull through are the times where I've really been proud of. And seeing that video has actually just made me quite emotional, because I didn't realise how much the sport and the people that's been supporting me has actually meant. But tonight's all about thanking the university from my perspective, again, to be recognised, but really to that time back in 1994, Bob highlighted that it started with a single piece of paper, and it did. At that time, we thought Bob Skeleton was a guy who hurtled down a mountain. We didn't realise it was a sport. And I remember turning up to this lecture at British Aerospace and finding out about this fantastic sport, and it gripped me, absolute gripped me. And the university was forward-thinking, it was visionary, and it partnered with BAE Systems, and it supported a very maverick type of PhD where there was no boundaries, there was no real definition to what we're trying to achieve other than trying to make sleds go fast. And that's what we did, and really that piece of paper started a technological revolution in our sport. It's helped the British team to win over 50 medals at multiple games, World Championships, European Championships, Olympic Games. I'm proud to say that it helped Shelley RUDMAN win the only medal in 2006. Shelley's now my fiancée. We have this debate in our house. She certainly beats me on the Olympic side, but you know, she met me when I was in Lillehammer. She saw me hurtling at 90 miles an hour down a track in a lycra suit. So I've been very, very fortunate to meet my future wife through the sport. But I'd just like to thank the university. I'd like to thank my parents. I'd like to thank Shelley. I'd like to thank my brother. But I'd like to make a special thank you to Dr. Bob Moon. He's been an inspiration to my career. He was my tutor through my PhD. And a mentor that's hopefully going to last me a lifetime. So thank you, Bob, and thank you, Nottingham.